them from the Proverbs. Her husband has been with us before with his choir, and they're coming back, I understand. She's going to tell you more about that because she knows about it. And my name is Jim. I'm not Melanie. You're used to having Melanie do this, and she knows how to count. So we'll be looking forward to having her back. Sure. So please give a big round of applause for Melody Templeton.
Hi. Oh, it's on. I'm so glad I'm not in control of that, because in my chorus that we talked about, I'm never in charge of the microphone because I forget. But the honor is mine to be here and to be on this stage. And like Jim said, we were here before with Charleston Sound Chorus and my husband, the director, and it was a lovely experience. And so when I got the call and asked if I wanted to be part of the Happy Hearts Luncheon, I said, you mean my chorus? And she goes, no, I was told you. I'm like, me? Are you sure? And she goes, yes. And I went, okay. So here I am. I'm very excited to be here. As I said, I was on this stage with the chorus, and we are getting ready for a competition. We compete, and our competition is the middle of May, so it's a little nerve-wracking time for us. But we are singing two songs that the first time we ever sang them was on this stage for the public. So you will be with us in contest in Orlando the middle of May. So thank you for that and letting us use your stage. And so you could say I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm not a regular speaker for events like this. I do teach some Bible studies along those lines, but what I am, I'm a studier of the Word. And I like to share tools and applications that I've come across as I study the Word. I've already gone off script, just so you know. So how much time do I have? So anyways, I think of the ABBA song, being a singer, that so I'm nothing special. In fact, I am a bit of a bore, because I would rather just sit quietly reading and journaling than stand on a stage. As you see, you have paper in front of you, and you might have to share some paper and have some writing tools, because we are all going to join in on journaling today. We are going to get involved with what is so near and dear to my heart. So I also brought some of my books and journals that I've compiled that I'll tell you about here real quick. The only book I've ever really written was with my son's baseball coach, and it's called Talk is Cheap, The Mirror Never Lies. And it's really about high school students who want to play college and get scholarships for it, which I'm happy to say our son is a graduate transfer to Western Carolina. He's a left-handed pitcher of baseball. I think that goes hand in hand. And as soon as we leave here, we're heading up to North Carolina to watch him play tonight. So we're very excited about that. So yes. So thank you. Gosh, you know how we are about our sons, our children. I shouldn't say that. Sorry, my daughter, that I said that. So while I was writing that book, and just previously, our church did a challenge to read through the Bible in a year. And a little piece of paper was formed, and it had Old Testament, New Testament, and Psalms. And every day you got to put a little check mark. And I am a check mark lover. And I loved it so much. And I'm check marking, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to go do tomorrow's, that kind of thing, because I just loved it. And I literally finished the last one on December 31st, because that's what I am. I'm that type of person. But I then watched a webinar on making workbooks that I thought I should do this for the student athlete, do a workbook. And as I'm sitting there, it was like, you need this to read through the Bible with. And not necessarily a workbook, but a printed out checklist of what you do daily with space to write in, because I realized I changed the year I read through the Bible. I totally changed, and I had no record of it. I just had to try and remember. And there's just so much in the Bible, you can't remember it. You think you will, but you won't. And matter of fact, I go back and read some of the things that I wrote, and I go, I wrote this? I don't remember, right? I got some, yeah. So that's what made me want to do these journals. And so let's see. I shouldn't say, though, that, I just compiled them. All I did was copy, paste, took other people's reading list, and I put them on Amazon, and they're as cheap as I was allowed to make them. And I just challenge people to read through the Bible. And if you never have, I highly recommend you do that. But I also recommend you have a notebook, if not one of mine, a notebook to go through it. So we have, let's see, I got to turn the page here. So I've also, once I read through the Old Testament, New Testament, and Proverbs, I went, I'm going to read canonical. So I went from the Genesis to Revelation. That was cool. I learned different things. Then I went historical, which would be the Jewish version of the books. Totally different. And I not to offend anybody, but when I read it in their order, I'm like, how do you miss Jesus when you read it in the order that their Bible is put together? So I also didn't realize they put different orders, things like that. But that's another part of this. But I've totally lost where I am, by the way, just so you know. So right now, I'm working through Proverbs. I've always loved Proverbs. And I'm journaling through it, but I'm also going to leave space for other people to input. And I've been working on this for over a year, so this is a long-term one, but Proverbs has a very, very special place in my heart. And before we start getting into the word and actually the 7 things of Proverbs that I want to open up with a word of prayer, because I think you have to. You have to. So if you could pray with me. Father God, we know we cannot fully fathom the depth of your wisdom. Through your Spirit and through Jesus, our Christ, guide us as we share this time together. Open our hearts and our minds to you and to your word. Amen. The book of Proverbs, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but I'm sure all of you have read Proverbs. If not, you have read Proverbs, you just didn't realize that was Proverbs, because they are that famous. But they're full of these little short sentences that sometimes you read them and you go, that doesn't, why this one, then that one, and this one? They just seems almost like a checklist. But they are so much more with the enormous wisdom that lies underneath them. And perhaps some people say, I wish there was a manual to life. I look at Proverbs like my manual to life. It's a way to live. And we're going to go through some of the steps that I believe if you do, your life will be better. Any stage of your life will be better. I personally think it should be a required reading for every human on the earth, no matter what their beliefs are, because of the enormity of their lessons. So the other thing about when I read the Proverbs and I start journaling about it is I find I'm listening more as my hand is going. And that it seems to be conflicting, but it's not. There's some sort of strange connection that goes on with the physical writing, not the typing, but the physical writing that happens. And I will tell you, I thought about having handouts and having a fancy PowerPoint, and because this is big. I'm standing in front of people, but this is really about you and about your time. And I wanted to keep it simple because this is simple. Proverbs is simple. Life is difficult, but can be simple. These lessons are simple, but they're deep. There was a saying I heard once that, especially verses in the Bibles or book in the Bibles that they say it's shallow enough for kids to play with in and deep enough for an elephant to take a bath. So, and I think that's how we can, we just have to keep getting deeper into the water as we go along. And so the first one I want to start with is number 1, start with reverence. Proverbs 9:10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." I know that seems harsh to some people, to fear the Lord, but we are not talking about being afraid of the Lord. We're talking about being in awe of his power and his capabilities and his goodness. C.S. Lewis described it as the moment when we realize God is both deeply good and far greater than we imagine. We just can't even fathom it. And what does that awe do for us? It humbles us. And that humility makes us open to learning, open to seeking, open to listening. And as we seek through scriptures and prayer, our understanding grows, and so does our awe. When I think as a child what God was, he was so distant, and this almost like the sun in the sky that was there and we could see him, but I didn't let him warm my skin. So the more you learn, the closer God becomes to you, and the more powerful he is. Something interesting happens when we live with that kind of reverence. We begin to listen differently. Not just talk, not just ask, but really listen. And one of the simplest ways to do that is to slow down enough to write. Because writing quiets everything else. Now, I'll tell you, I'm a math person. I'm not a writer. So I get uncomfortable with a blank piece of paper. Put down numbers there and I'm good. But a blank piece of paper can be scary. But when we connect our hands to our thoughts, something slows down inside of ourselves, and our scattered thoughts begin to take shape. Unnoticed feelings begin to surface. And what we hear, whether from scripture or life, begins to settle deeply. It moves from being heard to being understood. And often when we write honestly, we discover things we didn't even know we were thinking. The other day, I was doing a Bible study, and it had spaces. It was a David Jeremiah, and he had spaces to write. And it asked a question, and I'm writing it, and I just started writing. It had nothing to do with the question. And she's laughing at me. I think maybe she can relate. So I wrote about what was really bothering me and what was heavy on my heart. My heart was just heavy. And to actually put those words down made me accept them more, made me understand how much I was hurting. Because I am one of these who says, I'm good. My husband can tell you, oh, yeah, are you good? I'm good. But when I started to write, I started to cry. And I didn't even realize I was on the verge of tears. But that's what happens when you slow your mind down and you accept what really is around you. And as I'm basically complaining to God about what's bothering me, I remember Jesus saying, lay them on me, bring them to me, come to me as a child. My hurt started going away. Just putting them on paper made the hurt go away. Well, lessened tremendously, I should say, because it's still, you're still looking forward. But all of a sudden, I was like, I have just put this in God's hand. And it was more than just closing my eyes and asking the Lord for help. It was deeper. And it made my whole day better. So, with that said, you have paper and a pencil in front of you. You might have to share some paper. If you have extra pens or paper, I want everyone to either participate or pretend they're participating or doodle or do something, but make me believe you're up here. I think of when my husband is a music minister of our church. We go to First Baptist downtown. And he laughs at the number of people in the congregation who stand there like this while we're singing, supposedly. So if they would just do, he wouldn't have a problem. So just pretend you're writing if you don't feel like writing, but I'm hoping you feel like writing. So we were talking about the reverence of God. And here you take your pick of these questions. You can do all three, you can do just one. But your question is, when have I felt a deep sense of awe or reverence toward God? And when have I struggled to see his goodness? I think sometimes we don't want to struggle to see God's goodness. What is bothering me most right now? It takes a lot of guts to write that down. And please, kind of keep your eyes to yourself. But be honest. Be honest with yourselves. So it's, when have I felt a deep sense of awe or reverence toward God? When have I struggled to see his goodness? Or what is bothering me most right now? So I'll just give you a little bit of time to just contemplate on that. Hopefully, as this goes on, it'll get easier with your writing.
What's the second one? When have I struggled to
See his goodness. Don't feel like you have to stop, but I'm going to go on. The number 2, guard your words. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue. The tongue may be small, but it carries enormous power." We use it constantly, and Proverbs reminds us that our words matter. Another proverb says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." That's Proverbs 15:1. So the same tongue that can wound can also heal, calm, and encourage. One thoughtful sentence spoken at the right moment can stay with someone for years. As Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. I've actually come across that with conversations where I repeat one that I recall, and someone goes, "Gosh, I didn't hear any of that." And I'm like, I guess that's just how I felt when I heard it. I felt encouraged or I felt beaten up, but I may not remember the exact words. Yes?
I just want to address what you said as a teacher. Your words carry so much power with your students. I just want to share two instances that I know about. I went to a small high school in Kingsley, South Carolina. My brother was a struggling student, but his senior English teacher said, "You'll never make it at Clemson. You'll never be able to go through and do all the required writings." Well, guess what? He showed her. He graduated from Clemson with a commission in the United States Air Force and became a fighter pilot in Vietnam. Case in point, she said that statement and it had the exact reverse effect, but words matter.
Words matter. Absolutely.
On the other hand, taught elementary school, had a little smart child, a little boy in my class named Alan, loved math. And I said, "Alan, I just think you're going to be an engineer one day because you just love math." Well,
Yeah.
he
Well,
grew up and he went to Clemson, became an engineer.
so it's a plug for Clemson today. I didn't realize that.
So I'm
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Thank thank you for that illustration. And you're right, our words matter. And one, it encouraged him to do more because of the challenge. And the other one, I've also heard the opposite, where they go, I can't do that because someone told me I couldn't. So I'm glad to hear that the positive word of that. So let's see. But the way you make them feel can be good and can be bad, depending on what your words say. And if we think about it, and maybe that teacher can say this right now, I wish I hadn't have said that. And there are times that we have to admit that we regret words that we say. And I believe that is a good time to journal on it so that you can give yourself an honest reflection of what you said. You can acknowledge those moments and either, like that teacher, let it go because, that was a while ago, or it can prompt you to make it right. So we're on to our next prompt, our next journaling prompt. Do you pause before speaking? Sometimes, have you ever seen like you want to grab your words and pull them back as you're saying them? Do I think about the motivation behind my words? In other words, am I saying this to put them in their place or to guide them towards the future? What words have encouraged me, and how can I offer that to someone else? So the journal prompt is, do I pause before speaking? Do I think about the motivation of my words? And whichever way you want to go with it, what words have I heard to encourage me? And what can I offer to someone else? So on to number 3. I think you guys will like this one. Choose your friends carefully. Proverbs 13:20 says, he who walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. I know you're thinking of someone right now that maybe the Lucy to your Ethel gets you to do something that probably wouldn't have done on your own. And maybe you're the instigator. But we know what kind of people do for each other. I have a life group that I meet Wednesday mornings, and we can say anything to each other. And we are in different positions in our lives, but we've been together for 15 years. And every once in a while, someone goes, hey, can I join your group? And we're like, we've been through too much together to catch you up. Those are the kind of people you need to hold on to. And Proverbs is very honest about the influence of the people around us. They don't just affect our time, they shape our direction. And you may have heard the phrase, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That might be a little motivating or unsettling. But we've said that to our children, for those who have children. I don't think you should be hanging around him, right? It's going to get you to do things, but that I think we forget as adults we have to still do that. Be careful who we hang out with. But before you go looking for new friends, this proverb gives us another picture. Iron sharpens iron, and one person sharpens another. Proverbs 27:17. And if we're honest, sharpening isn't always comfortable. Wise friends don't always affirm us, they refine us. Sometimes the best thing a friend could do is to tell you where you're going wrong. My son said this to me. He said, Mom, you're not nice. Thank you. He goes, but you're kind. You don't necessarily say what I want you to say or what they want to hear, but you say what they need to hear. And all of a sudden, that became a huge compliment to me. It's important to be kind And sometimes the kindest thing you can say is to tell someone they've been wrong. And it's hard to admit. It's hard to do. And sometimes there's backlash. And that's unfortunate. But we'll get to what later on, with the humbleness and all that, into this. But we hope to be sharpening each other. My son, obviously, I adore my son. He also pointed out something that I'll never forget. He goes, we tend to judge ourselves by our intentions. Well, I meant to do that. That's not what I meant. I meant this. But we judge others by their actions. But what if we switched it? What if we judge ourselves by our actions? What did I really do? Not what I meant to do. What did I do? And what are they trying to accomplish? What did they mean to do? Because it changes things. It changes the way you look at people. It changes the way you accept things. And to be honest, it kept me from being fooled. When I see somebody doing something really nice, I'm like, what are they really trying to get out of this? I hate to admit that. But I think it's important to look at our own actions and try and find their motivation. And I think hopefully you all can relate to that to some degree. But there's something I want to say that I love about this group. Just looking around this room, the wisdom, the experience, and life sitting at these tables. I'm sure each and every one of you could come up here and share a story that would basically rock our world. But I will tell you this, it's entirely possible that someone who could deeply encourage you in this season of life is sitting here already today. You just haven't met them yet. So I encourage you to introduce yourself to someone new. Open up to someone new. And that might be impossible. Maybe you all know each other, and I think that's wonderful if that is the case. But you never know who might be the next person to sharpen your iron is. All right, we're ready for our next journal prompt if you're interested. Who are the people influencing my life most right now? What impact are they having on me? And what impact am I having on them? So who's influencing me? And what's the impact in both directions? Sometimes I think it's scary to think of us impacting others. So we're on to number 4 now. Sorry for those who are still writing. Proverbs 6:6 says, "Go to the ant, consider her ways and be wise." This one is practice daily diligence. The ant doesn't accomplish everything in one dramatic moment. It works steadily and a little at a time. The book of Proverbs consistently celebrates the kind of daily faithfulness. And as Jesus said, give us this day our daily bread. Daily. Consistently. In the same way, even a few minutes of reflection or journaling each day can shape us over time. Even 5 minutes. It's not drama. It's just steady and faithful. This was a quick one. Here's the next journal prompt. And I think this one's very important. What small daily habit has strengthened my life or faith? Am I giving my best time to God or my leftover time? Is there something I need to adjust or add? Sometimes we get focused on what's just right in front of us, and we delay what puts us straight to begin with. Number 5, value joy. Proverbs 17:22 may be the motto of this room. A cheerful heart is good medicine. I mean, preaching to the choir, right? Happy hearts. And you won't be surprised that modern medicine has agreed with a happy heart. When we laugh or sing, our brain releases chemicals linked to happiness. Our breathing deepens, stress decreases, the body begins to relax, which may explain why singing and laughing together feels so uplifting. The body is literally releasing tension and restoring itself. Proverbs knew this long before neuroscience did. And a happy heart, I had to put this in here, a happy heart really is good medicine. So, nothing? Really? Okay, thank you. Yeah. But I mean, I think that's why you get together. It's your life group, it's your happy heart, it's your time together. And that is finding joy in life. But I will tell you that journaling can help you notice that joy. Even writing down small moments trains our heart to recognize what is good. And sometimes we need to remember them.
It's the same person. Again, just had to comment on music. I mean, that's what you and your husband do.
Yeah,
You have a choir, you bring joy, you entertain people, and it lightens hearts. Same thing is true with the people, with the college kids that are now going into music therapy, because they're finding out there's such a huge need to reach people through
mhm,
music. So,
yeah. Thank you. And you're so right. My husband could give a whole talk on the importance of even singing and talking together. That especially singing, it actually does something to your brain. That so if you all go to this church, do you all go to this church? Do you sing out of a hymnal or do you sing? Yeah. Do you all sing? Okay. Yeah. Yes, make a loud, joyful noise, and it's just, yes. When I go to sing in church, or really anywhere, but mainly in church, I say, Lord, let them hear what you want them to hear, so I have no more responsibility of what comes out of my mouth. So act that way in the congregation. There is nothing more uplifting than to hear voices singing together in praise. So that was my congregational hymn singing plug there. So when you write down these happy moments and you get to relive them, basically, if you've journaled about them, here's your journal points in regard to that. What brings consistent joy or renewal to my life? Is there something, like to me, it's singing. For my husband, it's taking a nap. When he's stressed, he goes, I got to go lie down. And 15 minutes later, he's good. And that brings him joy. While I'm sitting there going, how does he do that? I can't take a 15-minute nap. But I can go sing a song. So that's what brings my renewal to my life. And then I have a big question for you. When you go to God, do you bring your joys to God or just your concerns? I know we said that, oh, Lord, thank you for the answer to this prayer, and thank you, but it's like, Lord, I so enjoyed that meal. I so enjoyed the talk I had with my friend. Thank you for that. And I think it's important to recognize the beauty that happens every day, that it is a joy, and to value that joy. And you will find if you journal about it, you can recall that joy, and sometimes it becomes even more joyous knowing it's on paper. And then the last one for the value of joy is, do I focus more on what's missing or what's present? Because as for me, I tend to look at what's missing. I'll admit. Especially with singing and being detail-oriented. What's wrong? What needs to be fixed? What needs to be done? Instead of, wow, look what I did. So I think it's important to journal about the joys as much as the concerns, maybe more. So here comes a big one, especially as we get older. Number 6, stay teachable. Proverbs 1:5 says, "Let the wise listen and add to their learning." I have a saying I've been saying for years, and it's when the arrogance starts, the learning stops. And as you mentioned, I'm a singer, and I sing barbershop. I don't know if you remember that part of it. Barbershop music, it's all a cappella. And when I first joined a chorus 26 years ago, I had no idea how much I had to learn. Actually, let me rephrase that. I had no idea how much I didn't know. And if I'm honest, it took me a while to realize it. And I did not enter that chorus with a humble heart. I enter it going, here I am. And it didn't take me long to go, whoa, I have a lot to learn. But I didn't realize it. I only wanted to hear what I was doing well, not what I needed to work on. And I thought I wanted feedback. I thought I wanted people to tell me, but I was really just looking for affirmation. This is great. Yay. I'm sure you understand that, Pastor, right? It's like, thanks a lot for telling me what I got to change. Don't appreciate that much, but okay. Can't we just think that's for other people? But no, anyways, I digress. But that mindset of I only want affirmation kept me from growing. I dismissed the other part. It's one of these you say, let's see, if I'm just going to make up one on the spot. But let's do baseball. Baseball swing. Swinging the baseball, you did a good job keeping your eye on the ball. You left the level thing. You need to do this a little higher. You get the little this. You need to plant your foot a little better. You need to do all this. And the coach lists about 5 things. And the baseball player just said, so I kept my eye on the ball. And I think we tend to do that when we read the Bible. We look for what we do right. We look for affirmation and not what needs to change. Because we've read this before. Oh, I got this. I go to church every Sunday. I'm good. Acts 17:11 describes people who examine the scriptures daily, going back to daily, not to confirm what they already believe, but to discover what is true. The interesting thing to me when you think of Acts 17:11, when they talk about the scriptures, and this is early Christian church, they're talking about the Jewish scriptures, because we didn't have the gospel yet, or it was in the process. It wasn't widely known. They were searching the scriptures that they had. Curious people keep growing, and they're on a lifelong treasure hunt. And part of staying teachable, if you're anything like me, is you have to prove to yourself you've learned something. Having tangible evidence that I have grown. For me with singing, I can listen to a recording. But biblically, I have had to have written it down. Because if you find you ever come across a study and you go, I do not understand this at all, write that down. Write it down going, this doesn't make sense to me. And just admit, this makes no sense to me. I don't know how I'm supposed to understand this. Lord, help me understand this. And suddenly, I say suddenly, but a day later, a week later, 10 minutes later, the answer comes to you. And all of a sudden you're like, how was I even confused? But if you'd written it down, your confusion, you see you've learned. And so I need to be encouraged that I'm making a difference with the time. And journaling helps me keep track of, I have not wasted my time here. So the journal prompts are, what have I read or experienced that I'm still wrestling with? We were just talking about the flooding in North Carolina. We could go on to the tragedies and the lives. I wrestle with that. I wrestle with that hardship because I know God can stop that like that. So I wrestle with it. I probably don't have nearly the stories that are out there, but the beauty that occurred from that tragedy of people reaching out to people is awe-inspiring. The help that other people have had and the effect it's had on their lives. So we may not know it all right there, but I still wrestle with it, even though I know God brought good from it. And this one's hard to write about. And it's along those lines. Have you ever wrestled with God's purpose? Again, why would God allow this? I have a friend right now in the hospital. She's going to be 40 in July. And a month ago, she was singing. And now she's on 100% oxygen and can't walk across a room. I don't understand. But I know God has a purpose. And I trust that. And I love her and I pray for her. But I don't know what the outcome is going to be. But that was one of my things I journaled about. That was really hard to write. So I challenge you to write those things down. And then one of the things I think is important when you do journal, the third prompt, whether you use it or not, is what have I learned recently that changed my perspective? Sometimes we don't want to change our perspective. We like where we are. We like our view. We don't want to hear we've had it wrong for 55 years. Yeah, he deals with me all the time. But it's true. We need to open our ears and go, oh, never thought of it that way. All right, I'm on the last one. Number 7. Think before you act. Yeah. Proverbs 19:2 says, it's not good to have zeal without knowledge. There's a concept called illusory superiority. I don't know if you've ever heard that. I never heard the term, but I've heard of it. Perhaps you've heard the study where they asked drivers if they were better than the average driver, and 80% said yes, they were. Which mathematically is impressive, right? Now, I'll admit, as I was driving, I thought of this. And I've noticed, perhaps you have too, that there are a lot of very interesting drivers out there. Maybe have different rules than we do, things like that. But then I had to ask myself, when have I been the interesting driver? When have I pulled out a little too quickly, not realizing how fast they were going? Clipped a curb? That's embarrassing, right? Especially if you know someone's there watching. But it happens. But when those moments happen, the other drivers are going to go, well, I'm a better driver than she is, because they just witnessed that thing. But they don't see all the other driving I do. Thank you. So that it's those moments that that I think about it. So basically, asking someone if they're the above average driver is a poor question. I think the question should be more along the lines of what percentage of your driving is poor? And hopefully, we are all well above average. And if you feel you're, let's just say 20% of your driving is poor, please let me know when you've gone so I can give you time to get ahead of me in the road. Just saying. But I think pretty much 95% of us. Now there are some drivers. I'm not going to lie. There are some drivers that I'm like, that person is a terrible driver. And you know who I'm thinking about right now. And it's scary. And they're kind of bullies on the road.
If you know all the collision places, you're probably not a good driver.
Yeah, that's true. If you're a frequent flyer at the collision place, that is, yes, that you're not you know one of those. And then I get scared too, that 20% of these people said, no, I'm a below average driver. You know. Well, okay. Maybe they were just trying to be humble. But think about it. The next time someone cuts you off, or slams on the brakes in front of you for no reason, because that's weird, especially if you're on 26. Don't assume they're a bad driver. It just might be a little slip. I mean, they could be careless. They could be careless, bad drivers, but maybe they're rushing to an emergency, or maybe something is going on in their life. So when you're in the car and you want to complain because someone's just weaving in and out, you go, you know what? I don't know what they're in mind. The other thing I do is when I'm driving and I'm like, and I want to do this to a driver, I go, maybe they go to my church. Maybe I should give them a little grace. Because I don't want to honk the horn at them going, oh, hey, pastor. Right? Yeah, very true. I mean, I don't want that. I don't want that. But the think before you act is the proverb that reminds us to pause and think. Sometimes that pause includes a prayer, can be seeking wise counsel, or simply slowing down enough to reflect. Jesus taught us something similar in Luke 14:28-30 when he talks about before you build a tower, a wise person gets the cost beforehand. You don't just jump in. You need to know you have what it takes to finish the project. And the next verses is a king who has to decide before going to war whether he can win the war and whether it's worth the cost of the war. So pause before you think. And that, I mean, if the thoughtful reflection prevents unnecessary trouble or road rage, I think that's good. Pause. So the prompt, if you care to write, is, when has pausing helped me make a wiser decision? When has my first reaction been unhelpful? Am I showing the grace I would want to receive? And I think those are very important life-affirming, life-adjusting lessons to help us see people for who they are, what they're doing, and not just how it affects you. So I think that pause is vital. And when I put all this together, it's the journaling becomes more than just writing. It becomes a place to listen, a place to receive, and sometimes a place to quietly confess what we're carrying. Not because God doesn't already know, He already knows, because there is something freeing about finally being honest and putting it to words, like that day that I was journaling. And over time, it becomes something else. If you do this regularly, it becomes a record of your journey. You begin to see where you started, prayers you once prayed, questions that once felt heavy, and answers that somehow found their way to you. And the beautiful thing is, none of this requires perfection. Just a willing heart and a blank piece of paper. I challenge you to begin a journal and really be honest with yourself and God. I also highly recommend Proverbs. Can't say it enough. When you step back, these Proverbs paint a picture of a life well lived. Reverence towards God, careful words, wise friendships, steady faithfulness, joyful hearts, a teachable spirit, and thoughtful decisions. And interestingly, the New Testament gives us another picture of our flourishing life, the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace. I'm always impressed with those who have this memorized. I have to read them. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. But perhaps that might be a good subject for my next visit to the Happy Hearts Luncheon. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melody. That was great. I feel like I've been to school and learned some things today. I'm so glad some other husband gets to hear this kind of stuff I hear from home on occasion. Have a few announcements, if you don't mind. First of all, we're going to do birthdays in a minute, so we'll wait till our pianist gets over. If any of you know Shirley Scully, stand up. Where are you? Where's Shirley? There she is. If any of you know folks that that need a card, or they're ill, or they're lonely, Shirley is in charge of our Sunshine group, and she'll get them a card or give them a call or whatever we need to do. The folks I have for birthdays today, Reed Atkinson, there's Reed, and Bob Sorensen. Anybody else having a birthday this month? Because we might have missed you. Table 2, we need to give them something since I missed them. Now, when we sing happy birthday, folks, we sing all y'all, because we have more people than we have usually. We have 2 door prizes today. If you will look at your program, and there's a little, is it a butterfly? What is it, Dot? Little happy heart. If you see one of those on your program, you are the recipient of something good. Raise your hand if you have that, please. There we go. We got one in the back. While Dick's delivering those things, remember in the back, as you come in next time, we have a Christmas basket. Put a little extra money in there so that we can provide folks that are needy in our area with a little extra special something at Christmas. Next time, our speaker next time is going to be Mr. Lowry, Tim, that we've heard many, many, many times. He's fun. So be sure of that. And be sure to call Dot by May 17th to put in your order, because we have to order food and we have to fix that up. Let's see. If you take tablecloths home, some of you take them home and wash them for us. If you will take them back to the Searchers Sunday School class, that way we can keep up with them and know where they are. We usually keep them in this closet, but that closet is is locked almost all the time. So if you'll do that, if you take some home, and help us, if you don't mind, hang around a little bit. We're going to put the tables and chairs up like we always do. Let me see if there's anything else I need to say. Anybody else having, Dick, y'all have anything that you need to say? And I apologize again to Table 2. We'll have better leadership next month, I promise you. So let's close with a prayer and we'll all go home. Good Lord, thank you for the words that we heard today. Thank you for the challenges that we got. Help us to take that to heart. And thank you for this food. And thank you for these friends. What a wonderful group of folks that look after each other. And bless us as we go through this week and help us have a safe trip home. Amen.